Warrington, City Council Member.
Jody O'Cady, City Council Member.
Ronnie Price, Mayor.
Homer, City Council Member.
Phil Hamilton, City Council Member.
Bob Buchanan, Police Chief.
Donna Davis, Chief Financial Officer.
Chad Russell, Fire Chief.
Rick Mines, Director of Public Works and Utilities.
Kendra Stacy, City Attorney.
Dana Engstrom, City Clerk.
Jolene Graham, Assistant City Administrator.
Les Mangus, Director of Community Development.
Jennifer McCausland, City Administrator.
All right, this time Ben Griffiths from Hope Community Church will lead us in invocation. How you doing, sir?
Good evening, doing well. Thank you. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you for this city. We thank you for the people who, Lord, impact it in a just a major way. And many of them are here in this room. Lord, we just pray for wisdom as we seek to honor you, to trust in you as we just lead others. Lord, we pray for just justice, that as people seek to honor you and trust in you, that the right things would happen, that those people would trust in integrity, they would do the right thing. And Lord, as those who lead would just be able to lead others and to do and care for those who look to them. Lord, we pray for prosperity as we just think about all the people who are involved and who serve and who work in this city. We just, Lord, continue to pray that you would help us to grow. But in that, not just in numerics, but in our unity as a city, in our service as a city. Lord, we thank you for those who give their time and who give of themselves to make this city a better place. Lord, we pray that this time would be honoring to you. Pray this all in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen.
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 Thank you, Ben. At this time, please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. At this time, man, we got a big crowd tonight. We need to start charging. At this time, I'll open the floor for a public forum. If anybody'd like to speak with us or talk to us, feel free to state your name, your address, and keep it short.
I started public speaking when I was in high school. I was one of the kids that could just go up to the podium and talk about anything and get great credit for it. But now that I have to plan them and actually research them, I don't even like to do public speaking anymore. Okay, my name's Julie Winslow. I really appreciate you letting me come before you. I actually grew up in Andover. When I was here, it was this big. It's very tiny. Anyway, I actually live in Rose Hill now. I want to begin with this great quote from Albert Einstein. Any individual who doesn't pay attention to the truth in the little issues can't be confided in, or in my opinion, trusted in the enormous ones either. And this is true for city government, for, the townships, the state or federal agencies, and also colleges and school districts. So I'm here to tell you about my experiences this last campaign when I ran for Butler Board of Trustees. Really glad it's over, and I'll be honest with you, after 4 years of misery on the trustee board, I was really glad that Mr. Hughesly won, but it did cost him a lot. Cost him all about $42,000. So I only spent about $7,700, so I definitely was outspent. So Mr. Berry, Mr. Hamilton, Mr. Henry, Mrs. Ocadas, is that right? And Mr. Warrington and Mr. Wimmer, did you all see the campaign signs that were everywhere? Not just the little ones, but the great big ones, the 4x8s, the 4x4s. Did you guys notice that there were plenty of them around? There wasn't just yard signs, but now, not unlike Mr. Bachman, who got his covered up by a big truck in a couple of crucial places. Mine were just, I had one occasion where it was just taken out of the ground and hauled off, put in somebody's truck, and turned out to be Mr. Kaplan. Mr. Kaplan owns the Andover Square, and even though I had an agreement with one of the leasers there, people that I do business with, he took my sign down and I had to call the police and actually get it back. But he was really good about bringing it back, and I appreciate that. I really thought everyone knew the campaign law signs, but you know, they don't really know what those laws are. So anyway, bless your police department. They were really good about calling them. You know, I paid $20 a piece for my 4x4s to a total of $120. But Mr. Bachman and I gave the council president evidence. We were the only ones that were charged for the 4x4s. No one else got charged for any of those. So my campaign is closed. Of course, I've already turned in my campaign report, but you know, I'd really like to have that $160 back. I will donate it, even if I have to reopen the report. I will donate it to a worthy cause. There's plenty of not-for-profits right here in this area that could really use even that little a bit of $160. But I can't speak for Mr. Bachman, but I'd really like to have that back because I feel like that, you know, I just feel like we were two different parties, even though we were all registered as Republicans. I just feel like we got treated two different ways. So if you agree, I'd appreciate it if you would direct the city administration to refund my money. That would be most kind. And I have my addresses on every one of those sign permits that I paid for. And I thank you so much for my time. It's really great to be here. You guys have a really fine place here. And again, Andover has grown by leaps and bounds. I'm really happy about that. I do an awful lot of business up here. So thanks. Just thought I'd tell you, you probably didn't even know about this stuff that goes on, but now you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Winslow. All right, onward. Anyone else? All right, public forum is closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move to accept the agenda as presented.
Second,
Second.
Hamilton.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. 7, awards, employee milestones. And Chief Russell will start this. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, Mr. Mayor and Council. If I could have Captain Cullinane up here with me. So some of you see me recognize your firefighters, and you know, one of my favorite things is to make them stand up here when I'm talking about them because they get really uncomfortable. It's not quite as funny tonight because my name is on the list tonight, so it may come back around. But my back's been hurting, Jenny. So Captain Stephen Cullinane, let me give you a little bit of history about him. He started with Andover Fire in 2010 as a reserve. So he's been here a day or two. He was hired as a career member in 2013. He was promoted to lieutenant in 2018, and 4 years later in 2022 was promoted to captain. This gentleman is an absolute rock star. So you should be so beyond pleased that he is serving you in the fire department. He is an award winner. He was a firefighter of the year in both 2012 and 2017. The firefighters select a leadership award winner every year. They selected him in 2019. They selected him in 2020. And in 2021, they selected him again. And I said, okay, enough. Somebody else needs to get this award as well, because we have a lot of leaders in our fire department. So he became the Legacy Award winner, which means that he is now such a respected leader that he recognizes other leaders in the fire department. He has high expectations. In 2022, he was awarded by the Kansas State Fire Marshal's Office the Tom McGoy Award, which is the highest award given to any firefighter in the state of Kansas. This guy right here brought it back to Andover. He has high expectations. He's known as the hose load perfectionist. There's another word they use, but I will say perfectionist. So when he rolls up in a fire truck in front of a building that's on fire, it could be your building, he has several things he wants to get done really quickly. And one of them is get the hose played off the fire truck really fast so he can get other things done. So it needs to be laid in the truck the same way every single time. It has to be perfect. That's the way I was when I was fighting fire as well. And he is one of the guys that absolutely demands perfection. It will be right, or we will take it off and we will do it again. And if we don't do it right that time, we will take it off and we will do it again. He does this because he cares about you and the service he provides to you. So when I told him one day about, hey, I really appreciate what you're doing, in a written form, we have a place where we can write recognition for him. His response was, quote, "I appreciate the recognition, but nothing is more important to me than the safety of my crew and our citizens. I have made a promise to my department to do everything in my power to send everyone home safely to their families." So that's the kind of guy we're talking about tonight. 10 years he's been working here. He's a perennial stair climb leader, which means when we talk about and don't never forget what happened on 9/11 and the 343 firefighters that died, he remembers every single year because he's doing the stair climb in Wichita or somewhere else. And if he's not able to be there, he's doing it right in your Andover fire station by himself with no cameras, nobody around to pat him on the back. He's just doing it because it's important for him to prove that he made a promise to his community. He's been very well involved. I wanted to mention something, especially council, but some of you may have gone by in the evening and saw a weirdo out there in full turnout gear flipping a tractor tire. Has anybody seen that? I know the police department talks about it because I've heard them talk about, I keep hearing this thump, thump, thump. That's this guy. So again, no cameras, nobody out there. The boss isn't there. He's not getting any accolades for this. He's doing this because of the promise he made to you. He's always involved in Hands to Serve, and his family comes along to help with Hands to Serve every year. He's involved in Honor Guard. He takes care of the fire department radios. He's a forcible entry guru. He not only teaches here, but he teaches regionally as well. He's always involved in our rookie academy. He's been on truck committees. He's on our peer support team, which means if other firefighters are having trouble dealing with situations, he's one of the guys that comes and helps with that. He's done SCBA technician. He's been a driving instructor. Are you bored yet? He quit. Yeah, whose kid is that? Acts just like his dad. In his defense, the fire chief might have been over poking him a bunch right before we got started. That may be my fault. Captain Cullinane leads up. He coaches and gives me feedback all the time, and he's very helpful. He's honest and gives me forthright feedback, even if he thinks that I may not like the message. He's just as likely to be found leading a regional drill as he is to be found by himself picking up trash around the firehouse. He says it's not about me, it's about them. If you haven't figured out who them is yet, that's you. Yep, you too. One example of this is he was with his family at a local restaurant, and we were absolutely blowing up on a windy, hot spring day. We had 13 calls in the afternoon. We normally run about 5 or 6 calls in an entire 24-hour shift. So we were blowing up. So his poor family gets left. He comes to the firehouse and he spent the rest of his day and most of his evening, and I think you even stayed over the next day to help out. So rather than taking his day off, he chose to serve you. Another example about he is about them, and that is you. I'm going to have to be careful how I say this one. So this is a direct I'm acting like you, Mr. Mayor. I cut this directly out of a report. There was, and I'm going to say bodily fluids on the floor at a medical call and all over the portable stool. Quote, I asked the patient if she had carpet cleaner. She stated yes and told me where it was in the kitchen. Firefighter Mosier and I stayed and cleaned the carpet and the stool and took the trash out to the dumpster. Not necessarily in his job description, except that because of leadership from guys like this, that's the expectation we have at Andover Fire Department. I am absolutely proud to have the true honor to serve for the last 10 years with Captain Cullinane. Congratulations.
Stephen absolutely hates that stuff, doesn't he? He absolutely hates that stuff, and he's a firefighter is not what he does for a living. It's who he is as a person. And I personally thank you, my friend.
Appreciate it, Mr. Mayor.
You are not getting off that easy, so you're gonna stand here. Chief's right. He knew that he was next, so he wasn't gonna be able to make Steven stand up here and not do the same. I might make you sing and dance.
I can do that.
You guys know a song you should sing? That's true. I forgot we had a responsive group tonight.
First responder.
Chief Russell's 10-year anniversary occurred actually on February 10th, so this is about 6 weeks past due. There's things in your career you look back and you put in the bucket of success. That was something I look back and say that was a good choice, that was a good moment, and then some that you, maybe I could have a do-over on that. I'm really pleased to have in one of my buckets of success being part of the selection team for Chief Russell as the chief in 2014. I shared in 2019, when I last got to do this for him for his 5-year anniversary, that his start was unorthodox, but of course it would be unorthodox. In 2014, people didn't ask to do Skype interviews. I had to create a Skype account and figure out, does this computer have a camera? Does this computer have a microphone? Because I don't know how to do this. But he was going to be on a cruise, you see, and he really wanted to apply for the job. So I'm glad that for those of you that were not in the workplace before 2020, this was like a big deal in 2014. I have to express that this was an accommodation we made for Chief, and I'm really glad we did. It paid off because he's an amazing chief for the Andover Fire Department. Before I go any further, I do want to recognize Joanne is here, his lovely better half, as well as many of his family. Would you guys all wave, because your support has made Chief be able to do what he does for us. So Chief, since the last time I did this, 2019, we've been through some stuff. It's been an eventful 5 years, and it's been an exceptionally eventful 5 years for the fire department. We all know what happened in 2020, but Chief was my only medically trained person on the senior management team. And so if you try to go back in your minds to what 2020 was like, when recommendations and guidelines were coming out rapid fire, and something came out from the CDC in the morning and got maybe changed by the state of Kansas or the governor that afternoon. And then we had to figure out what the county wanted to weigh in. And then we had to see what the county next to us weighed in. And I was constantly saying, Chief, what do we do? And how do we guide the governing body to make the best policy decisions for our community? But there was added weight, because probably a lot of what you haven't thought about during that time was the safety of these folks, because their job couldn't be remote and their job couldn't stop. So Chief was an excellent resource during that time to protect our most valuable resource, our employees. He also thought about all of you at home and the safety of you if our employees had been exposed to this very scary disease that nobody really knew what the outcome could be, and how we could protect you when our officers, our EMS, and our fire had to come into your homes or your personal spaces. So thank you so much. That would be enough. If that was the last 5 years, that would be enough. But then we thought 2021, COVID's in the back rearview mirror. Let's do a sales tax initiative. We don't have enough to do. So Chief led an education campaign for our public to explain why a new fire station was needed and why we needed to remodel our current fire station. In November of 2021, the public voted in a more than 2-to-1 fashion and said yes to Family Future Forward and approved both of those projects. Since that time, Chief has led the process to both build and remodel a fire station. Everything from the beginning stages of selecting our construction manager at risk, all the way through the planning of the public open house, which, if shameless plug, April 18th. If that is not on your calendar, go ahead and put that on your calendar. We've talked about that in your career, there's certain things that you're like, I'd really like to accomplish this thing. And so for a fire chief, designing and building a fire station is probably one of those things. You know, before I'm done, I'd like to do that. Or maybe I'd like to remodel this current station. And he did both of those. And then we're going to talk about some other things he's done that you thought maybe once in my career. But in the last 5 years, done a lot of them. In 2022, Chief was our first incident commander following the days of April 29th, 2022. He provided excellent leadership during those days, and I would say, I think you feel the same, that our relationship personally grew a great deal during that time. Some would call it trauma bonding. The fire department under Chief's leadership were excellent hosts in the weeks following the tornado as we opened an emergency operations center in their station and worked from that throughout most of May. We laugh now that he's admitted this to me, but I'll never forget the first time he told me the trepidation he had when, after the county emergency manager took me on the damage assessment tour, and I arrived on scene at 3 a.m. And apparently Chief's heart went to his stomach and he thought, oh, great, she's going to get in the way and ruin everything. So while I would never wish that we would go through that again, to be very clear, Mother Nature, never again, I do think we had the opportunity to occupy the same physical space and to show each other respect enough to say, this is my lane, this is your lane, and we're going to stay out of each other's way, but we're going to support each other when we need to do that. Speaking of respect, Chief Russell is well respected by his department as well as his colleagues from across the entire city of Andover. His thirst for knowledge and his desire to constantly improve are some of the key attributes that make him so great in his role. I look forward to continuing to work with Chief Russell for many years to come. Again, no more tornadoes. Okay, and thank you for your dedication, leadership, and 10 years of service.
Thank you.
Oh. And it looks like Jolene is up next.
Jolene.
I'm going to allow this next gentleman to sit because that's the kind of supervisor I am. It is an honor to stand here tonight and recognize someone who has dedicated an outstanding 35 years of his career to the people of Andover, Les Mangus. While I have only had the privilege of working with Les for a few months here at the City of Andover, I first met Les in 2015, almost 9 years ago when I became involved with the Wichita Area Metropolitan Organization, or WAMPO, as it's more commonly known. Now, Les wouldn't remember meeting me, but I sure knew about him. Les was and is well known throughout the metropolitan region, if not the state, for his ability to foresee and plan transportation infrastructure projects in such a way as to expertly leverage state and federal funds, amplifying taxpayer money to build up the transportation system throughout Andover. He competed successfully for millions of dollars of funds for the benefit of the city, including projects like Andover Road, 159th Street, and both extensions of US 54 being the most recent. Les is one of those remarkable visionaries who not only sees what a place is, but envisions all that it can become. Les began as a city superintendent in 1989 in a city that only had 4,200 people. Over his career here, he has seen the city quadruple in size. And one of the more rewarding aspects of working in municipal planning is that you can see physical touchstones of your career in the city where you have spent your life's work. When you look around the city of Andover, there's not a stone you can throw without hitting something that Les Mangus has had some part in realizing in the past 35 years. Subdivisions, commercial developments, manufacturing facilities, healthcare centers, parks, including the park and city hall we are all sitting in tonight, public facilities, grade schools, high schools, community college, street and utility improvements. Les's legacy is everywhere you turn in Andover. Les made his home here. He raised a family here. He helped rebuild the city after 2 devastating tornadoes. He has been through entire changes in the governing body, and I have it on good authority that Greater Andover Days would not be the festival it is today without Les's guidance and hard work from its earliest beginnings. I am honored to have the opportunity to work alongside someone whose work I have admired from afar. Les, for 35 years of service and dedication to the city of Andover, I am honored to present you with a gift that we hope brings you joy. If you would please come up. It is not a paid vacation to Argentina. I don't have the spending authority for that. But it is a small token of our great appreciation for you.
Thank you.
Les, thank you for your service, not only to the city of Andover, but for your shining example in the entire metropolitan region. Thank you. Need some help with all this?
All right. 8-1. By the way, I worked for Les in 1993 at we didn't call it a wastewater plant back then, but worked for him. And so it's a privilege to be the mayor while you're still here. It truly is. Dang it.
It's pretty cool.
All right. Onward and upward. Eight one. Andover swim team presentation. And Phil is going to read a proclamation for us.
All right. Whereas the Andover High School boys swim and dive team won the 5A state championship for the 2nd year in a row, and whereas the Kansas 5A boys state swimming meet was held on Saturday, February 17th, 2024 at Topeka's Capital Federal Natatorium, and whereas this was Andover High School's 2nd straight state championship, finishing with a score of 374, and whereas the event champions were the 400-yard freestyle relay team, the 200-yard freestyle relay team, and Eli Kennard in a 100-yard freestyle, and whereas the Andover High School team is coached by Kelsey Biebig-Hauerzer. I, Phil Hamilton, with the City Council assembled in regular session on the 26th day of March 2014, hereby proclaim March 27th, 2024 as Andover High School Boys Swim Team Day.
If you can't see the camera can't see you. Make sure you get in there, guys.
Nine one, presentation municipal golf course 4Q report. And Dick Stuntz is going to speak to us, and he's from Oaks Golf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief Russell, before you leave the room,
He's coming back.
he's being swamped by a swim team. With all the accolades you received and deserved and everything, I noticed he left one out, and that is that you helped save the greens at the Andover Municipal Golf Course last August. I mean, that right there. All right, very good. All right. Well, on that report should be Rick and Daniel Shabwa. I know this isn't the fourth quarter report because this happened in the third quarter. I've already mentioned that, but indeed we had an irrigation crisis there at the golf course, and Rick and Daniel and even Chief Russell, as I mentioned, got in the act. And had it not been for them, we would have lost a significant amount of turf on our greens. And instead we had a very small amount of damage on there. And so once again, thank you so much. And to me, it's just another demonstration of the partnership that Oaks Golf and the city of Andover have. And I've said before, and I'll say again, it's the best contract that I've ever had with a municipal or government agency, and this is my fourth one. And so I just feel so fortunate to be here in Andover, and we're dedicated to make that golf course everything it can be and be the best asset to this community that it can be, and we're working hard on that. So real quickly, back to the fourth quarter and the year of 2023, we were up 10% in our rounds of golf in 2023 and up 15% in cart ridership. I really would probably credit replacing the cart fleet and getting upgraded golf carts out there to both of those numbers. When people like the carts that they rent, they have a tendency to come back more. And I really believe that it was a very significant part along with other things. The aforementioned irrigation malfunction that we had as we continue to learn about the system and working with Rick hand in hand on this, you know, as we try to make corrections and improvements and repairs on that system, that mainline breakout on the seventh hole really woke us up to the approach that we need to take. Because when your golf greens are in danger in the middle of the summer, and one leak can cause the problems that we had that period of time, we needed to shift gears, and we've done exactly that. And so for going forward in 24 and beyond that, we're going to focus more on sectioning off the system and working on the main lines and the connections to the main lines that cause the problems. And so again, it was an awakening by all of us, and hopefully in a reasonable period of time, we'll have that system that is safer, and we won't have the crisis that we experienced in 2023. So again, we had a good year with about 3 or 4 days in there as an exception, but really looking forward to the future. And one of the things that I am really looking forward to is we have a new general manager, Oaks Golf general manager. His name is Brady Fay. He's sitting right here. I'll bring him to the podium here shortly. But Brady comes to us from Pocatello, Idaho. He has a very extensive golf background in a broad range. He's a terrific player in his own right, played golf in college. He was a high school golf coach for the last number of years and has had successes there. And so he has experience inside and running tournaments, as well as spending, quite frankly, more of his time on the outside in golf course maintenance. So as I was been looking for some time to find someone who had that broad range, you're looking for a unicorn, and I'm very excited. He's been on the job for about 9 days now, and he hasn't quite got all the problems solved, but he's identified them. And so it's gone a long ways. So with the time allotted, I'll just turn it over. First of all, any questions for me regarding finances or other things? If not, I'll ask Brady Fay to come up and give a few words.
Well, I'm just, excited to be part of the community, and hopefully we can get the golf course improved a little bit and bring some business up and make it a little nicer, make it a real asset for the community. And me personally, I came here for one day with Dick in February, and I really enjoyed this community, and that's a big reason I'm here. So anything we can do at the golf course to be a better part of the community and improve things, we want to do. And that goes for me personally. I want, to participate, and, let's just work together and make this as good of a process as we can. But I appreciate you guys having me here today, and we look forward to, giving you the best product we possibly can.
Any way I can help you, Brady, just reach out.
I appreciate it.
All right. All right. Consent agenda 10-1 through 10-7.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve consent agenda items 10.1 through 10.7 as presented.
Anyone?
Second, Hamilton.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Heritage Senior Living. Jenny, you gonna talk to us about that? It's 11-1 Heritage West Senior Living resolution to issue industrial revenue bonds.
Mr. Mayor and Council, tonight before you is a resolution to issue industrial revenue bonds for the Heritage West, which is a senior living establishment in the Heritage District or TIF District. We spoke about this development at your February workshop. Mr. Austin Cack with the Overland Property Group and his associate Reagan Brown are here tonight. I'm going to allow them to take the podium if they have anything they'd like to say. We've got your presentation, but you certainly don't need to go through that per se. I do want to address to the public, because even though the council's heard all of this, we do workshops not televised. So often when a business applies for IRB financing, that might come alongside a tax abatement. That is actually not the request that is being considered tonight. As many are aware, the Heritage is part of a TIF district, meaning that the tax increment from when the ground was raw to when it becomes improved is all being invested back into that district to pay for the infrastructure that is supporting those 100 acres. So for that reason, that tax increment or that tax abatement is not an opportunity for those who come to do business in the Heritage. What is an option through industrial revenue bonds is a sales tax exemption on construction materials. And when you're doing projects that cost in the neighborhood of $13 million, that can be significant, and that can be a helpful savings to investors in our community as they do a startup business. That is the request before the council tonight. The council did hear a presentation in February about this project. Of note, there is a fixed income aspect to this project that I think Mr. Cack may say a few words about, but this was something that was very interesting to the governing body in February as something that was really needed in our community and something that they really wanted to get behind and support. I think it goes without saying to the governing body, because the group was generally supportive of the presentation in February, but for the public's sake, there is a committee consisting of the mayor and myself that must give a recommendation to all of you on whether or not we think you should support this request. And the mayor and I are in agreement that we would recommend supporting the IRB resolution before you tonight. Austin, if you have anything you'd like to say.
Yeah, I think so. I'm more than happy to go into any details on the development itself specifically, but maybe just a couple things. So as Jenny had mentioned, there is a fixed income aspect that I kind of explained in the workshop. One thing that I did want to clarify alongside that is property tax, and this is more for the public, property tax assessments in Kansas are not done any differently for those kinds of properties. So from a TIF reimbursement basis back to the city, we're taxed the same way that any other development that would be in this area would be taxed. So from a true use perspective, it's really no different. There were also a couple questions that were asked at the workshop specifically about the program participation. I think there was a question specifically from the mayor about, who actually qualifies to live in these certain units. So the official requirement for residency in these units, dictated by a restrictive agreement placed over the property, is that one individual in the household has to be aged 55 and up. That's really the only blanket requirement, alongside the fixed income portion for some of the units. The general statement is, as long as one of the individuals in the household is age 55 and up, you're eligible to live there. From a fixed income perspective, I think just to kind of give some context around the numbers, really what we're talking about, based on kind of the area income for Andover, it's a typically more affluent neighborhood compared to a lot of the communities that you see in Kansas. So that income qualification actually goes up pretty high comparatively. So I think on the upper ends, for the income qualified units, it's anywhere from 50 to 55,000 based on the size of the household. And since we participate through particular programs, the rents that are charged to residents of those fixed income units typically are lower than what you'd see on the market rate side. So I believe there was a question at the workshop as well about, of the fixed income units, like how much money can be, kind of put back into the community, patronize the businesses around, so on and so forth. Really what you're seeing is really somewhere in the realm of 42 to 44,000 in disposable income per household, and translated across all of the units in the development, that's, $2.5 to $3 million a year. That can be kind of pumped back into the local economy. So across the board, it's generally a net positive. We don't see any sort of negative aspects to the development. Again, I'm more than happy to go into detail on specifics, but we think that this is a great project for the community. I think it serves a need that this community has. It helps keep seniors that are in the community here. It gives them a place that they can, afford to live and really be proud to stay in the community that they've, patronized for the last 30, 40, 50 years. So that being said, open to any questions from council, public, anyone. I'm more than happy to go into detail.
Mr. Mayor, I have a
Yes, sir.
comment or a question for Austin. First of all, I just want to say that, I think we all like this development. During the workshop, it was talked about a lot, and, something that's needed for our area. And the mayor even said that he was going to buy a unit in there too. So, but one of my questions was, and I think we talked about it in the workshop, would y'all consider adding more units to it? Did y'all happen to talk about that?
So the program that we operate through has a specific kind of, it gets kind of complicated with the way that phases are designed. And so we're still kind of in the evaluation phase between, how much larger we can go. I think with the first phase of development, we're probably plus or minus 10% on the total units at this point. So the original plan was for 60. I think we can probably get up to 66 with the financing that's been secured. And so it's still kind of a little bit of a moving target. But generally, I think for the first phase, and depending on how we kind of structure things, that 60 unit is really where we're going to kind of have to stick for now. That being said, we do have some work to do with Les to figure out kind of the exact zoning requirements for the area. And I think we're trying to figure out a way to maybe apportion something off for a second phase in the future, if possible, under the current zoning for the property.
Yeah, I think we just had seen one of your developments that looked kind of like an L shaped.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, that looks really nice. And of course you had extra land that was available. And, but yeah, if there's a way that y'all can add more to it, I think it would definitely help our community even more.
Yeah. And I think to that point too, I actually did have a conversation with our architect about, future phasing and how we could potentially tie the buildings together. They are condoed off, so to speak, from a footprint perspective. So you can have a shared wall. So I think what we're trying to look at now is if there is a possibility for a second phase, structuring the units on that end to potentially allow to kind of build into a second phase and kind of have it be one cohesive element. Otherwise, I think we're going to have to go kind of another route and see if there's an opportunity to maybe mirror it on the other side of the property or something along those lines.
Thank you.
Will that decision-making have anything to do with how fast it gets saturated? Because I think it's really a fascinating project for this area.
So we have independent market studies that are commissioned for this. Our market study hasn't come back for this specific development, but basically all of the information and research that we've done has said that, there is a pretty substantial need. especially with this type of development in this community, I really don't think we're going to have an issue with saturation. I think it's going to fill up pretty quick. I think our standard waiting list, we actually just did a project kind of similar in Salina, and we hadn't even finished leasing up, and we had a 15-person wait list by the time that we were like starting to lease the units. So they end up leasing up pretty quick, and we're pretty excited about it.
Greg?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Jenny, there was another person. So this is a different developer than the actual Heritage Development Team, but the Heritage Development Team did write a letter of support for this as well. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Thanks, Austin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I move to approve resolution indicating the intent of the governing body of the city of Andover, Kansas to issue certain taxable industrial revenue bonds in an aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $13 million for the purpose of purchasing, acquiring, constructing, furnishing, and equipping a commercial facility in Andover, Kansas, and paying a portion of the cost of the issuance thereof.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? Austin, I'm really excited about this project. I really am. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Hope you don't think that moves you up on the wait list.
It might.
Oh, my goodness. 12-1, property and liability insurance. Jenny is going to talk to us about that, and we have Lance and Matt in the house.
Yes, as you will remember, we entered into a brokerage agreement earlier this year with USI. So this will be our first renewal of property liability insurance with USI. Lance and Matt are here tonight from that group. They've included in the packet for you the comparison of the renewal to last year, as well as provided you an executive summary of the things that they're seeing in this market space, specifically in municipal area. The good news is we were able to come in tonight with a premiums reduction from the year prior. And some of that was because of some interesting and new unique strategies related to deductibles, which had not been something that we'd really looked at in the past. One I'll point out, because I think this will resonate pretty well with many of you, is that we had previously had a much lower premium on the building, $2,500. However, most of the things that are going to happen on the building are going to be wind or hail, as we know, and that deductible is mandatory $75,000. So by taking the deductible up for other things that we really hope don't happen, but like if you speak about them, then they won't happen, right? So if you have a fire or something like that, now you'll be at that higher $25,000 deductible. But the wind, hail, the things that happen most frequently to city buildings where we have to replace roofs and things of that nature, those were already going to be at that $75,000 regardless. I will turn it over to Lance and Matt if they want to talk at all about their process and how we got to here tonight, and then any of us can answer questions.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you, council. Again, it's been a pretty interesting process, the transition from one broker to ourselves. I did want to address a couple things that were in the memo or the narrative that I put together. It is a very difficult property market right now for commercial property, especially in the public entity space, and even more so on the heels of a major catastrophic event, right? So the fact that EMC was able to come to the table for us this year and provide very favorable renewal terms speaks well for the relationship you have with your current insurance company, EMC. We did speak to a couple of the other standard market insurance companies that we work with in the public entity space, Travelers and Chubb being two of the primary ones. The unfortunate part for trying to market an account such as yours on the heels of a catastrophic event is they're only kind of looking forward basis is based on what's happened in the past, right? And so we look at a 5-year history and loss experience, and both of those carriers are like, we cannot compete from a pricing standpoint with what EMC is doing for you. EMC graciously is looking for a long-term partnership and wanting to work with the city going forward. So that boded well for the city going into this renewal and really helped us in our negotiations on the renewal terms. So I think what we ended up with is a very favorable renewal. There are deductible pressures, as I kind of outlined in the narrative that you have. All of the insurance companies are looking to push more retention down to the individual insureds, something we're facing across all industries, all aspects of property insurance based on national catastrophic events, and which is an increasing realm over the last 4 or 5 years. So very good for that. The other thing that we were able to do was a lot of the insurance companies are pushing insurers to move to what we call a percentage deductible on your property. The fact that EMC is willing to leave that at that $75,000 flat level, which gives you a little bit more comfort and guarantee into what your out-of-pocket expense would be in the event of a catastrophic event, that's a good thing, because the percentage component comes into play and it leaves a lot of kind of questions around what are we going to be out of pocket in the event of a catastrophic event. So that was good. And, I can't tell you what the future is going to bring, but the fact that we were able to negotiate very favorable terms on the renewal, given the recent history, I think bodes well for the city. And the team and the council and all of the controls that you all are putting in place certainly help you control these costs going forward too. So it's been a pleasure working with the team so far. We look forward to working with you more going forward, and I'll stand for any further questions.
Anyone?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. Did you see anything that we could, from accreditation with the police and 911 center to anything else? Did you see that? Have you let Jenny know? Are there things that we could work towards to lessen the impact more going forward in the future, or is there? Did you kind of do a little bit of an audit there?
So we do a bit of an audit. One of the things that I indicated in the narrative that I provided, social media has become a big issue for law enforcement, right? All of the things that you see in the news and people videoing and the cell phones and all the things, that's created a bit of a challenge for the insurance companies, because it's creating this increase in liability lawsuits. So just, being cognitive of the actions of the law enforcement forces and the fire force, that's the best thing you can do. And what I would tell you is you've got the best practices in place already. We have great teams and you're doing things right. We haven't had a history, knock on wood, we haven't had a history of losses from the law enforcement side. We haven't had a history of liability losses from the fire side. So keep doing what you're doing. The accreditation piece is kind of taken into account on the front side. The times that you're going to get dinged for a little bit is when you're having losses and not doing the things that you should be doing in best practice kind of scenarios. So I would say you're doing what you need to do. We keep watching that and following new and creative strategies to monitor and implement and maintain that going forward. I think you're doing well.
Thanks, Lance.
Do you think on future premium renewals, the farther we get away from all the claims that came along with the tornado, that we'll see the premiums go down, stay the same, or what's the expectation as we move forward and get farther away from that?
Well, it's hard to say, but in the typical underwriting process, that would hold true, right? So if you think about when an underwriter is looking at an account such as yours, they're going to evaluate a 5-year historical snapshot, right? The further we can put that behind us, the better in the typical scenario. What we can't say is, and as I also addressed in the narrative, what the state of the market's going to do. So we've continued to see this uptick in national catastrophic events, not only in the US, but globally, which is impacting rates and the necessity to force retention back down to the insured. So there's two things at play. If we have good loss experience, great. If the market follows, then even better.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the renewal of the 2024 property and liability insurance policies with Employers Mutual Casualty Company, EMC, and Volunteer Firemen's Insurance Services Incorporated, VFIS, in an amount of $179,674.
Second, Hamilton.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here.
Mr. Mayor, I will point out one thing that I did include in the memo, and I just want to call your attention to. We are taking actions to, my term is marry up. I don't know if that is a term, but I'm going to use it because I already went with it in writing. Our workers' compensation insurance renews on January 1, and our property liability has always been April 1. And then our health insurance is July 1. It kind of feels like we are perpetually bringing you insurance renewals. So we're working on a short year this year. This renewal will go from April 1 through December 31. So we will be back at the end of this year to do property liability and workers' compensation effective January 1. So you will feel a little bit like Groundhog Day, but it'll just be a 1-year thing, and then we'll get all of that fixed and on the same schedule.
It is kind of nice to have everything be concurrent. The other potential benefit to that is the rates for 2024 have been established. So as we go through this and through the transition, we've done a little bit of just kind of fine tuning coverage and exposures and all those kinds of things. But the benefit to the city in doing that is that we're also going to gain the year of 2025 at the same rates that we're looking at right now. So there may be some reinsurance issues that go on throughout the year, but for the most case, losses aside, we should be able to realize the same rating structure towards the end of the year for another 12 months. So it'll be beneficial from that perspective as well.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Lance.
All right. 13-1 New Spring Concert Drone Show and Vending Requests. Did I skip some? And Daniel, you going to talk to us? Excuse me? Oh.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will hand this over to Kat with ASM.
Okay.
As they are operating the venue, this season moving forward. And she has a event request here for New Spring Church, one of the repeats from previous season.
Good evening.
How are you tonight?
Fine, thank you. And you all are doing great, I assume. For New Spring Church, they didn't have a representative that was available to be here this evening. So if you have any questions regarding the drone show, what they want to do is the exact same show and vendor that they used last year. I don't see any issues with this from the information that I've been provided and read at this point, but happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Anyone?
I mean, you're representing ASM. ASM's on board with this.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I need to know. Yeah. Right? All right. Thank you. Anyone?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the sale of goods and services and to allow for the presentation of an aerial drone light show by Sky Elements at the New Spring Concert, September 17th, 2024 at the Capitol Federal Amphitheater.
Second, Hamilton.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Dana, would you send me an invite on that? Thank you, ma'am. Did we vote? Okay, I got lost for a minute. 14-1, it's not the first time. 14-1, temporary use 1600 West Highway 54 Circus. And Les is going to talk to us about that.
Thanks, Mayor, Council. We have an application for a temporary use for a circus on the property at 1600 West Highway 54. That temporary use is considered a community event in our UDM zoning regulations, which requires approval by the governing body. It's for a 10-day period with multiple shows on each day. The operator of the circus tells us that his maximum audience is in the 500 people range. So you may see a turnover of 1 or 2 shows in a day of those 500 people. You've in the past approved a circus at this same location a few years ago, and many temporary uses over the past 10 years or so. And there's been a lot of discussion about those multiple temporary uses in a year and the storage of materials and portable structures and so forth that have been left behind from those temporary uses over the years. Staff sees no problem with this circus. We think it's a great community event, but we would like to see that property cleaned up after the circus is done, and we've put that in your recommended motion on this approval, that the property be returned to its unused, undeveloped state within 30 days after the circus temporary use.
Does that include the stuff that's there all the time? Want it?
Yes, everything that is there without a permit.
Because sometimes there's stuff there all the time. Is all that permitted forever, or I'm kind of late to the party on that?
What's permitted now?
Right. That's what I was asking.
To date, they have permits for driveways. They have permits for temporary electric and some fencing. But there have been temporary structures that have been drug in. There are shipping containers, storage trailers, that sort of thing that are there without a permit.
So that's why I guess I'm asking Les is, so with the approval of this tonight, that will look like a field again, not fences here and there and stuff here and there. Is that what we're asking to do?
The fences could remain because they are there by permit.
Okay. But any gondolas and bales of hay and all the other
Correct.
stuff?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to be clear what we're voting on.
What would happen if they don't clean it up?
We would cite them to municipal court for a zoning violation.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So have we done that then? Because this promise was made at the last time there was a temporary permit authorized. And when I drove by tonight, I don't know if we're considering the stone walls that run east and west along 54. They're one-piece brick, but they're huge. I would say
Sure.
4x8 squares or whatever. Is that considered fencing?
It is not part of that fencing permit.
And then I see some, when I'm driving along 159th or 54, there's also some, I guess, kid play structures. I don't know if they're commercial grade on there. We've got some temporary sheds that are housing a, not a carousel, not a merry-go-round, but a carousel in there. There's approximately 4 storage containers on this property currently in that picture to the left. It's not in the picture. Closer to 54 and then closer east off this property. So some of my concern is, what did we do what was the last temporary thing? Pumpkins or Christmas trees?
The last temporary use was a pumpkin patch.
So,
and if you'll remember, we also recommended then that all of these unpermitted structures and pieces of equipment be removed. But when we went back and looked at the motion that approved that temporary use for the pumpkin patch, that didn't make it into the motion. So that put us in a predicament, and we think it's best for enforcement to enforce it with this brand new temporary use. It's in the motion. It's clear cut what our expectations are.
The carousel's got to go, the playground's got to go because
Correct.
it's temporary.
Correct. Storage is not a permitted use.
Okay, cool.
So
Shipping
what wasn't in
containers.
the motion for the pumpkin patch?
We had asked for the words that all of the unpermitted structures and uses be removed, and that didn't make it in the motion.
Is council good with these words now? They are.
So to be clear to people that are listening, all we're really wanting to do is enforce what we would with any other business owner.
Yes,
uh,
yes.
or temporary use, whether it be streets or whatever. We just expect it to be put back the way God had it intended, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Is there a representative from the business here tonight?
No.
There is not. The applicant was actually the circus operator from Florida.
I don't think they've shown up in a while to any of these requests.
You know, I mean, that's my,
That's the only time.
that's my concern, Mike, is that throughout the meeting, the last time we issued this temporary thing, that was the concern then, and I still have a concern with it now that it hasn't been cleaned up. And he knows it needs to be cleaned up. I mean, 54 and 159th, that's a gateway to Andover. And when we did the, city master plan and did the charrettes, that was identified as one of the gateways to our community. And having these temporary structures or every few months, allowing a temporary thing, and then he can, he, she, family, whoever it is, comes in, waits another few months, and then pops up with another temporary permit. I'm perplexed that they think because it wasn't mentioned in the motion, they didn't have to do it.
Well, we'll fix that this evening, and we can stay on top of it going forward.
Mr. Mayor, one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain, and just on record, what they have to do in order to make this property legal? I believe they have to plat the land and et cetera, to be able to conform to the permits and such.
For a permanent use, we would require them to plat the property and make dedications for street improvements and easements and any necessary public streets if there were within the property. You know, it's 17 acres. So it's a substantial developable piece of land.
Yeah, I know we mentioned this at least 3-4 times over the last 10 years, and they just keep not wanting to plat it and do that such and just do the temporaries. And I think it's time for them to move to, something more permanent. That's just my opinion.
And if they want to do the temporary uses, then they got to abide by the regulations.
Rules,
we set
right?
Forward, yeah. So, but that's what we're talking about this evening, thank goodness. So, because it's going to become more and more eyes are going to be on that corner. So it's time to make it right. So, all right. Any other questions? And we're happy again. I know this is a repeat question, but we're happy with the way this is worded with council, and that we can indeed say, hey, get it off there or good. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I guess to that point, all these motions that we've ever made, if there's something in the wording that's wrong with them, then they're declared not correct?
No, my understanding is that, just to be clear, to protect the integrity of the zoning and the enforcement, that the city felt more comfortable to make sure that they had the backing of the motion, and it was very clear that as a city council, that's what you wanted done. And so they kind of have a little bit more teeth to what they're doing. And so there's no question. And so we were wanting to just make it clear and put it in the motion that they have the authority to do what they need to do with zoning.
So if this was not approved tonight, there wouldn't be a question then, correct?
I believe there would be different notices and, different process to do that, but the zoning is clear and there are certain notifications that need to happen, but the zoning law is clear for how Les said it was, so.
I have no problem with the circus or whatever else they want to bring there. It's just that they need to clean things up when, after each time or each event or or such, but it's time for them to clean it up.
We've got a couple of them in town that we can clean up too, so now's the time. Because our city's growing and we want to be special, so we'll handle it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I guess my question to us is, in these 11 temporary use permits in the last 5 years, has it been cleaned up afterwards at all? They know they need to clean it up, but whether we're enforcing it or not, I'm not happy about it. I can tell you that.
All right. Well,
If it makes you feel any better, and I totally understand how you feel. I have just put in my calendar on May 23rd, which would be 30 days following the 2-day cleanup. Is Marietta land cleaned up? And if not, issue citation letter. So we will get this corrected this time.
And then how many days after that letter goes out on May 29th or whatever it is, do they then get, because we all know there's a fireworks stand that goes there. So then when would they apply for the temporary permit for the fireworks stand? It's just an ongoing thing, right? I mean, then they have 30 days from the 29th? That's June 29th. And we're right back into where we did. They didn't clean it up. Oh, it's a fireworks stand now.
Well, the playground, I think, is what they use to keep the playground there because it's 15 days here and there. And so.
Well, and during the fireworks, they do get a permit for that tent,
Correct.
but that is all that they're getting permitted at that location at that time, I believe.
The fireworks is a renewal. Authorization was given many years ago to operate a fireworks stand there by a license. That license is renewed annually by just compliance with some regulations, insurance, pay the fees, so forth. But these temporary uses expire within a few days. And in this case, we've put a definite date on the end of this temporary use and our expectations as to when the property needs to be cleaned up, because you hit it right on the head that this has been an every 90 days or so occurrence, which makes it really hard for enforcement when one use bleeds over into the next, bleeds over into the next, bleeds over into the next. And it seems like there's always that telltale left behind from one or the other.
That's what the playground does, is it has a place for them to show up and spend money and the kids go play while they're spending money. But if it's not a permanent, if they're going to leave it there permanently, then they need to do it permanently. And
Well,
then-
if it's gonna, they have to do this 3 times a year by cleaning it up now, it'll probably get old. So they'll need to move to the other direction. So.
All right. All right. All right. Can I get a motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to move to approve the temporary use permit for the circus to operate on the premises at 1600 West Highway 54 from April 11th to 21st, 2024, with 2 days in advance and 2 days following for setup and tear down, with the condition that all unpermitted storage and structures be removed by May 21st, 2024.
Second. That was Paul. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Hey.
So I'm confused. This wording is so that doesn't get left there all the time, right?
It does not.
Excuse me?
Correct. There's a specific term that they're allowed to operate a circus, set up, tear down, and then 30 days later, it has to be returned to its undeveloped state.
And that means everything that's there. I
Yes,
just want to make sure.
Everything
we
that's
vote
there
on it
that
because-
isn't permitted.
permitted.
Right. So a nay vote would say that it's okay to leave the stuff there, correct?
Nay vote would be to not approve the temporary use
Permit.
For the
permit.
circus.
For the circus, yes.
But in this wording is also wording that they have to clean it up totally after that And if we don't, then they're going to be able to leave nonsense there until the next time we bring something up before the governing body, correct?
No, that all unpermitted storage and structures be removed. So you're saying in the affirmative that they will be removed.
Right. But a nay vote is saying that you don't care if the stuff remains.
I think maybe Councilman Henry's thoughts are that if you don't allow him to continue to conduct business, of which is clearly already been marketed across many social media sites and things of that nature, that perhaps that's a message that you are in a position you're putting the business owner in.
Okay. Motion carries 4-1. Ordinance changing signers, God dang it. Ordinance changing bank signers, resolution to designate bank signers, and Matt is going to talk to us about this. This is 15-1.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We updated bank signers at the beginning of 2023 shortly after I came on board. But now we are in the position where Donna is about to retire, so we have to change them again. We're going to add Jolene Graham on in place of Donna Davis for both the check signing and safety deposit box.
Any questions? Can I get a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution designating Equity Bank as the depository of city funds and authorize the mayor and designated staff members as signatories and authorize Council President Henry to sign.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Oh, you got the next one too. 5-2 safe deposit box signatures.
Same.
Anyone?
Mr. Mayor, I'd move to adopt a resolution for authorization to be given to safe deposit box when signed on behalf of the city by any one of the designated staff and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. I have one comment on that. I actually need all of you to sign that second one, the safety deposit box one.
Before we
Thank
leave
you.
tonight.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Green Valley 11th Edition Reserve Acceptance, and Les is going to talk to us about this.
Throughout the course of the replatting of the course of Green Valley 11th edition, the developer has promised to give to the city the reserves. You see there, the shaded area is Reserve B of the 11th edition, just to the northeast corner of the apartment site. The development is progressing along well. There's a new owner. He tells me that he intends to be in construction around May 1st on those apartments, and he is staying true to his words that he'll donate that Reserve B to us. And then after the installation of a berm and landscaping on Reserve A, he will also give that reserve to the city. So the action we're asking for here tonight is just to accept the quitclaim deed for Reserve B.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
do we have plans for B and A, or are we just going to use it as a berm and barrier from the development to the neighborhood?
Reserve A will be developed with a 6-foot tall berm and heavily landscaped with the apartment project. So there really isn't room for any other type of improvements. Park Department is kicking around what the potential use could be for Reserve B. It's a fairly small area that does have some drainage that passes through it, but I'm sure they can come up with some green space uses since we will have a 10-foot bike ped path that runs along Founders Parkway there.
So like maybe a little pocket park or something like that, Rick?
Well, I don't want people thinking we're going to be putting a park in there in the very immediate future. The term that comes to mind is a parklet, or like maybe a little area with a little seating area and some plants and such, but nothing, no swing sets or nothing like that.
It's
Thanks,
just,
Rick.
really, it's just taking advantage of the buffer zone that we've told the neighbors, correct?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously that snippet doesn't really do that developer much good either. So it's probably just as easy for him to get rid of that and let the city take care of it. However, we can probably utilize that to some extent in the future for a amenity that would benefit those traveling along that bike ped path.
So it won't be a splash pad there?
Don't say that. Mike. All right.
I got one other thing. So are these areas, are they kind of, I don't remember what they look like right now. Are they overgrown? Can we leave them overgrown and natural and not have to take care of them as much? Is that something possible?
They were brome grass until we built the street project. We've been in there and laid some water lines, done some grading, storm sewer, that sort of thing. I'm going to leave that up to Public Works and Parks as to how they would revegetate those, but
Would that
native grasses is certainly one option.
kind of like what we did on the hill out here or so, or okay, all right, that's all.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to accept the quit claim deed for Reserve B, the course at Green Valley Greens 11th edition replat.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Green Valley 11th edition reserve quit claim.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to approve the quit claim deed for a portion of the Reserve B, the course at Green Valley Greens 11th edition replat Reserve B.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. 17-1, purchase of point of sale system, and Rick is going to speak to us about this.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight, before your consideration, is the purchase of a point of sale system. Point of sale system is that device when you go up and purchase something at a counter or such that they type in what you're buying, and then they scan the credit card and make the transaction. In our initial agreement with ASM Global committed to an initial of $100,000 in capital improvements. The wording in it is such that it's more or less at their discretion. We can't unreasonably deny what they would like to spend that $100,000 on. This is one of those things they would like to spend that on. The city will own these, however, we will not have to pay for them. We will get the money as in form of a donation to the city of Andover in the amount of this to cover the cost of it. And then, what it includes is 35 point of sale systems and the necessary training and software to make that system run and operate. I think it's fairly clear cut, but if anyone has any questions, I would try to answer them. But if I cannot, as earlier presented, Kat is in the audience from SM Global, who's also happens to reside upstairs in an office here right now and with ASM, and can, I'm sure, answer any questions that I can't.
Mr. Mayor, I have one question.
Yes, Mike.
Is there a maintenance agreement that comes along with it, or any software upgrades or any such things on a year-to-year basis?
I don't remember on a year-to-year basis. I did not see AJ was in here either. So AJ Boleski with ASM Global is here too. So he's going to handle this.
Hello, AJ Boleski, ASM Global. Yeah, so there is, in addition, this is the capital purchase that Rick has been talking about. in addition to that, there's an annual software subscription. So it's included in the first year's purchase, and then after that, it would become part of our ASM Global's operating budget for the amphitheater would come, and that's where the upgrades that you're asking about would come from.
All right. Do you know about how much that is per year? Is that something ASM will take care of, or will
It's-
that be the city?
No, it'll be an obligation of of ASM Global's annual budget there.
Okay.
It'll
all right.
come out of
You
our
don't have to
operating
say what
budget.
it is then, so.
I can't remember the exact amount. I want to say it's in the 10,000 range. 12,250. Thank you. So like I said, the first year one is included in this purchase that we're proposing tonight. And then for year two, it would come out of our operating budget. So the budget that we submitted earlier this year, we'll submit again on an annual basis, and it would be included in that.
Was that part of our, I don't remember seeing in here, but was that in here?
Yeah, if you look at the itemization 3 from the bottom of the annual software subscription, annual recurring cost, it's that third line up, 12,250, and then the data exports.
Okay, yep, I do see that
There you
now.
go.
As a point of clarification, what AJ is referring to is annually you'll get a budget to approve that sets the operating either loss or cost or whatever that what their costs are and what the expected revenues are. And that's kind of the point that's set. And that happens annually. And that item would be included in that annual budget as part of their cost, but it's part of the operating cost for the venue, which, you know, we're still on the hook for to some extent, obviously.
Are we
Thank you.
confident? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Are we confident that this system's going to work better than the one we had before?
So to be clear, this isn't a ticketing system. This
Okay.
is a point of sale for food and beverage type items or shirts and other things like that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the same system you're using in many of your other venues. And that's the reason it was selected, is because your staff is familiar with it.
Yeah, we currently, we actually just installed the system at the arena last summer, and then at Century 2 2 years ago, and at the Orpheum about 4 or 5 years ago. So.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
And so, Jenny, Rick, legal, we're protected by not having to bid this out because our agreements with ASM essentially wants this, uses it. That's why we don't have to bid this out for anything, correct?
So to be clear, we have a purchasing policy. Our purchasing policy is that, as such, that the mayor and council can waive it at any point in time, anything they want to do. However, this does comply with our purchasing policy under the sole source item, as in it's a sole source item because it's software and the hardware that they're using currently in their other venues. And it makes sense to stay with that one because their staff is currently trained on that one instead of going with a, let's say, a low priced vendor that might be difficult for them or have a learning curve for them to use or not meet the standards of which they'd like to operate. Additionally, because of the way the agreement was written, it's a little bit vague to me anyway on that, but I do believe this meets our purchasing policy because of that previously stated, being the software and the hardware that they're using in other venues.
And then you kind of mentioned it as far as ticketing. Do we see in the future either buying new ticketing software, or is ASM going to be using the ticketing stuff that we have? What's that look like in the future for this season, I guess, if you will?
So our plan for ticketing, and this will actually start with Taco Fest coming up in June, is we'll utilize Select a Seat, which we utilize at the other 3 venues that we mentioned previously. And so the equipment will be provided by Select a Seat as we contract with them for those events. So there will not be another purchase request for ticket scanners or any of that. That equipment will be provided by that company, by Select a Seat.
And then as a whatever, I went to a hockey game and I believe used this then recently this year, and there was no cash. Is that going to be the same thing utilized here? No cash utilized in the POS systems?
We're not quite there yet. For food and beverage, more than likely that'll be the case. At least for the stands that we operate, we're still kind of working through that process, but it's a much more efficient for everybody to go that route. And it is the way that we do business at 2 of the 3 other venues here in the market.
It was way nice when I went to the hockey game to be able to tap the phone, pay the concessions with the kids screaming, holding popcorn, spilling it everywhere. It was way easier than having to take out my wallet and do that. So appreciate staying with the 21st century kind of technology.
It's a lot easier on the operating side of it as well. We don't have to have all of the change that we would need to have there. It also eliminates any possibilities of theft. So it's much more efficient.
I think it's great. Thank you. Thanks, Rick.
AJ, I suspect these point of sale terminals will outlast this initial term of our agreement, but do you have a rough idea on what the life of this system is and when it would have to be replaced potentially?
Probably going to have to get back to you on that with the exact number, but I can tell you at the arena, we just replaced our original system, which we opened in 2010.
Okay.
So we replaced that in 2023. We did do one upgrade about halfway through. So I would say based on that, they're probably good. Technology in general, we operate off of about every 5 to 6 years. We need to look at making an upgrade. So I would expect in that range.
Got it.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
approved to authorize the purchase of the point of sale system from Clover Sports, Austin, Texas, in the amount of $59,418.
Second. Mayor was asleep at the wheel. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I hate to take us backwards, but I do want to just go back to 16.2. I want to make sure it was in all of your package. You have the information, but if the public didn't understand, I feel a need to go back and make sure that we understood what we did in 16.2, where you gave back a portion of that land to an adjacent homeowner. I just want to be sure that was understood. If it was, the information is on our public website and the people can go see that if they'd like to do that. But I want to make sure everyone who voted understood because that went very quickly.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
All right. Member items, and let's start with Philip tonight.
This is Donna's last council meeting, which personally I'm sad about. I'm gonna miss Donna. We'll have our weekly phone calls, Donna. It's okay. The community food bank is in desperate need of donations. They said this is kind of a time when they really need food, kind of early spring when they start running out, and they have a list of like 27 different items, hygiene products, canned food. They need almost anything at this point in time, so I just call that out. Chief Buchanan, we never had any doubt that the CALIA certification would come through, so that came through. And then the egg hunt, shout out to Beth, Megan, that whole team, Daniel, crushed it. The wind was cold, but other than that, 10 out of 10 would recommend again. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Phil. Man, kudos on the egg hunt. 10,000 eggs were in the great lawn of the Capital Federal Amphitheater and they were gone in less than a minute and 30 seconds approximately. Well attended, parking lots were packed, library, city hall. If you got there fashionably later, like myself, you ended up parking along the gravel beds to the east of the amphitheater, but still well attended, was a bit brisk. And I thought it was awesome idea, well done, well thought out. Maybe next time, I don't know if you want to call it rain delay, weather delay, maybe we could partner with the library on some of those activities where it was coloring, that kind of stuff, maybe put them inside the library. But that was and I've given you some other after action reports. I appreciated not having all the candy in the eggs for the kids, but there was actually stuff to do, tops, sticky stuff, stickers, that kind of thing. Much appreciated from a parent of 3 that will argue over who got the pink bag of Skittles versus the green. So I really appreciate that from all the staff that put that on. It was awesome. Kalia for 911 and the police department. That's awesome. That's amazing. Donna, we're going to have you mail order some of your cinnamon rolls. When Jenny has those short Saturday sleepovers, if you will, during the day, we're going to need you to FedEx. I've got a FedEx account. You can just next day them, if you will. I just appreciate that. Unless 35 years, man. I mean, that's not only did you work with the mayor previously, it should be commended, but 35 years, you've probably forgotten more than I'll ever learn, and just appreciate all that you've contributed to the city. The advice you've given me from the first day of, hey, is there anything I should know, since you're the kind of the guy in the block that knows everything, and you're like, go read the master plan. And I went to it and I was like, that is a lot of pages to read. And coming from a not reader, I think we need to put that maybe on YouTube, something that, or audio book. Maybe that could be one of your journeys next, is doing an audio book for master plans or something like that, your voice. So just really appreciate you and the hard work and the 35 years, the planning that has gone into that, the vision that you've had to help the city grow. It's just phenomenal when you think about it and really take a look back at what the city's become because of you, Les. So I appreciate that. I think that's about it. Mr. Mayor, it's all you.
Homer. Megan had to put that all in perspective this afternoon. She reminded me this was on the agenda. I'd forgotten about it. And she reminded me by saying that she was born 6 months after I went to work here.
Wow.
Well, if I can add to that, he is employee number 7. The last one that we hired is like 576. So
What are you?
62.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Megan, could you remind me to put in the mayor message, the folks that were standing out there? For example, the only one I can think off the top of my head is Andover Auto Body. And that poor lady's face was solid red. So I need to thank them in the message I put out. Would you remind me of that? 2, I'd like to thank the Boy Scout Troop 533 and 584 for collecting a whole lot of food for the food bank this last weekend. So they were out to going through neighborhoods. They were at Dillon's at both places. So let's give them a shout out.
Hey, thanks for your reminder too.
Yes.
About that on Instagram. Do you know how many tons they actually brought in?
No, I haven't talked to them, but it was a truckload.
Yeah.
Truckload. And Les, again, I thank you for all you've done for the city, forward thinking, and especially regards to 400 highway. Man, city, other folks on the other end of the road wasn't nearly as forward thinking as you had Andover thinking in regards to right of ways and all that entails, and Wampo, just, you can't say enough what he's done with Wampo. It's just ridiculously good. And last but not least, Jenny, I appreciate you not including me in the 2020 disaster when I got elected. So I thought, man, the chief had to put up with this new guy, and Jenny had to put up with this new guy, and where the heck did he come from? So thank you for not pointing that out with the place full of people. All right, and that's all I got.
Well, apparently I need to start first, because by the time it gets to me, everybody's already said all the things I had. So congratulations to Andover PD and Kalia. Congratulations, Chief Russell, on 10 years. Thank you for your service. And Les, thank you for everything. It's been a fun 23 of those I've been here and got to work with you for GAD and all that. So thank you.
Well, ditto to Chief, ditto to Chief, ditto to Donna and Les.
Oh yeah, Donna, sorry. I forgot you, Donna.
Yeah, so
Sorry, Donna.
all good things, and all the way down the podium here is all great things. And everyone have a awesome Easter this weekend.
Yeah, I won't go through and say all the names, but I can tell you guys that this city's amazing, this community's amazing, and it's because of all of you. We moved here just a little over 3 years ago, and one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to run for council was just because I felt that way about the city, but I had no idea. And all the support that you guys give us within the city government, our police staff and fire, it's amazing. It really is. It's something that I'm very proud of. I think we all are. And I want to echo Mike's sentiments that everybody have a happy and blessed Easter.
I want to take a minute just to tell a story. So back in the day when I worked for the sanitary sewer, the PD also kept the dog, the stray dog, what do you call it? We kept the stray dogs out the sewer plant. So us sewer guys, he knows where I'm going. We took this big old dog. I think it was like it was a high dollar dog.
They started out, there were two of them. They were those mastiffs that weigh like 200 pounds.
So this dog would always have slobber this long on each side of its mouth. And Les comes out there in his nice shoes, Dockers, nice shirt, and he's standing there and he's talking, and that dog did that. And it went from the toe of his shoe all the way up his shirt. And I was laughing so hard I thought I was going to wet myself, man. I never have forgotten that. That dog, remember you?
I remember it.
Of course, when you left, we were all having a good time with that.
We called the male Sludge. That's the byproduct of our wastewater process, sludge.
The female was, I think we called her Hooch. And I was laying down working on a tractor or something one day, and that daggum dog walked up and laid his head on my belly. It was just lovely. It was as sweet as a dog could be. And just same deal. My shirt was soaking wet, man. That was hilarious at the time. So, all right, enough of that. Everybody wants to go home, but
Great story.
The only thing I would echo that everybody's already said, but just a reminder that our retirement party for Donna is in this room on April 5th. So a week from this Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. I believe that you've all received that on your calendar, question mark. Okay. But the public, I'd love to have them come as well and send Donna off with well wishes.
all right. Is that it?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adjourn.
Second, Hamilton.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. I believe I still.
Sign the forms.